everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to be doing the March Through History recommendations. March Through History is a month-long readathon dedicated to history and historical fiction books. It runs from March 1st to March 31st, so it's the entire month, and the theme this year is going to be Women in History. I've created a bingo board with 25 prompts to help you choose reading material. And in addition, we also have a group book that we'll be reading together, and I'll talk about that more at the end of this video. There are 25 prompts for the March Through History Readathon, and I decided I was going to do a recommendations video, as you know I always do, but that means I have to scour the entire house for all the books. I'm missing things, I don't know. It's been a chaotic day, but I've scrambled all the things together, and we're just going to jump into this because I don't want it to be a super long video. I'm not going to talk in depth about the books. I'm mostly just going to hold them up to show you. You can go research them and see if they're things you want to read. But these are books that I own that I've either read or want to read, so that's the best I can do as far as my recommendation of them. So let's just jump in. We're going to just go through all 25 prompts and I'll give you my recommendations for them. So the first prompt is to read a biography or an autobiography. So this is going to be a mix of different things, but they're all going to be biographies or autobiographies. So first I have in my pile The Underground Abductor. This is one of the Nathan Hale Hazardous Tales books. This one's focused on Harriet Tubman. I like to include things like this because they're really quick and easy to read, which is great for a readathon. I have The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore, One Last Shot by Kip Wilson, Alice Paul and the Fight for Women's Rights. This is by Deborah Copps. Catherine Howard, The Scandalous Queen. This is one of the Alison Weir biographies about the Tudor wives. And one of my all-time favorites, Mary Queen of Scotland and the Isles by Margaret George. This next category I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because literally 90% of the books I'm going to show you today fall under it, and that is Women on the Cover. So I just grabbed these two. I have Bronze Drum by Fawn Nguyen, and I have Reader, I Murdered Him by Betsy Cornwell. Both of these have women on the cover, but like I said, you're going to see so many books with women on the cover in this video. The next prompt is books that are written by a woman of color, and for that I have When the Ground is Hard by Mala Nunn, Kai Kai, and this is by Vaishnavi Patel, And We Rise, and this is by Erica Martin, A Million to One by Adiba Jagadar, and Wake, and this is by Rebecca Hall. Wake could also be counted for the category of biography or autobiography because this is a graphic memoir / history. A lot of the books I'm going to recommend today fall under multiple categories. The next category is Women in Science. So I have a lot of books for that. We have The Atomic Weight of Love. This is by Elizabeth J. Church. I have The Woman with the Cure. This is by Lynn Cullen. Atomic Anna, and this is by Rachel Barenbaum, and actually I have two of her books. I also have A Bend in the Stars, which is also by Rachel Barenbaum, so both of these would be Women in Science. I have Half-Life by Gillian Cantor, and I have Code Girls by Liza Mundy. The next prompt I want to share recommendations for is for Women at War. This is another category I just had a ton of books for. So just really quickly, I have An Extraordinary Union by Alyssa Cole. This would also fall under a book that is written by a woman of color. I have Brother's Keeper. This is by Julie Lee. My Name is Selma. This is by Selma Van de Peer. Again, this could also be considered for a biography or this is an autobiography, so it'd work for that one too. I have Lovely War by Julie Berry and Girl at War by Sarah Novick. I have The Fire by Night by Teresa Messinio, and I have Daughter of Sparta. This is by Claire M. Andrews. And the next prompt is to read a book that is a graphic novel. So again, Wake. The Hidden History of Women and Slave Revolts by Rebecca Hall is It's a memoir. It's a graphic novel. It's written by a woman of color. We have Grass. This is by Kum Suk Gendry Kim. I have Abina and the Important Men, A Graphic History by Trevor R. Getz and Liz Clark. I have Displacement. This is by Kiku Hughes. And I have Salt Magic, and this is by Hope Larson and Rebecca Mock. The next category is middle grade. I have Betty Before X. This is by Ilyas Shabazz with Renee Watson. Again, The Underground Railroad. This is middle grade technically, so it counts for both graphic novel, middle grade, and biography. Salt Magic, again, is middle grade. Then we have War Girls. This is a collection of First World War stories through the eyes of young women by a whole bunch of different authors. So this is middle grade, and it would count for women at war, and you could probably also count it as biographies. I have Ophi's Ghost. This is by Justina Ireland. The War That Saved My Life. This is by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I have Alma Press's Play, and this is by Tina Kane. The next prompt is to read a book about royals. And this one, I own a ton of things, and I didn't really want to pull them all down, so I just grabbed a few. So I have The Bad Queen by Carolyn Meyer. Honestly, anything by Carolyn Meyer. She has just a ton of books that are about royals. These are also technically YA/middle grade, depending on the book. I have Antoinette's Sister. This is by Diana Giannovazzo. Damn near all of Philippa Gregory's books are about royals. I just grabbed this one. This is Three Sisters, Three Queens. And then I had to recommend Fatal Throne. This is The Wives of Henry VIII Tell All. This is YA, and it's just so good. The next category is Women in Politics. I wasn't sure I was going to find anything on my shelves, but lo and behold, I had several. So I have What Every Girl Should Know, Margaret Sanger's Journey. This is by J. Albert Mann. I have White Rose by Kip Wilson. This is about Sophie Scholl and the White Rose movement in Nazi Germany. Then I have Alex and Eliza. This is obviously going to be about the Revolutionary War, and this is by Melissa de la Cruz. I have Enchantée. This is by Guida Trellis, and it's set during the French Revolution. All right, the next prompt is to read a book with LGBTQIA+ representation. So I have a bunch here. We'll just go through them quickly. I have Beautiful Little Fools. This is by Gillian Cantor, one of my absolute favorite books from last year. Highly recommend. This is a Great Gatsby retelling from the perspective of the women characters. I gotta recommend a Sarah Waters. I grabbed Tipping the Velvet, but I'm pretty sure all of Sarah Waters' books include LGBTQ+ representation. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Nothing Sung, Nothing Spoken by Nita Tyndall. This is a book I'm really excited to read. And it is also YA, and it is also pink on the cover. And The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. The next prompt is to read a book with multiple POVs. Ideally, they would all be women perspectives. So I have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is multiple perspectives, and I'm pretty sure they're all women. I might be wrong, but I think they are. I have The Matchmaker's Gift by Linda Cohen Leugman. Then I have Codename Verity. This is by Elizabeth Wine. And then I have The Davenports, and this is by Crystal Marquise. Next prompt is to read a book about a woman artist. Did not have as many of these as I thought I did, and I think I still am missing something. I know I have it, it's just not here. It's somewhere in my house. I have Little by Edward Carey. I have The Masterpiece. This is by Fiona Davis. And I have Swing Time by Zadie Smith. The next prompt is to read a book about wives and mothers. For that, I have So Many Beginnings, a Little Women remix. This is by Bethany C. Morrow. This would also count as a book that is written by a woman of color, and it is YA. I have The Marriage of Opposites by Alice Hoffman, and I have The Year We Were Famous, and this is by Carol Etzby Dagg. The next prompt is to read a book about women in business, and I have three recommendations for that. Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street. This is by Susan Jane Gilman. I have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And this one is about a woman who runs an apothecary, so that works for business. And then I also have The Mad Girls of New York by Maya Rodale. This one's a bit of a stretch, but Nellie Bly I would consider a businesswoman. She was a journalist, but like that, it counts. This next prompt, I feel like I've already talked about a ton of YA books, but we've got more because I have so much on my shelves. So for the YA prompt, you could read Mirror Girls. This is by Kelly McWilliams. Again, The Davenports is YA. And The Daughter of Sparta is YA. You could read Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This also counts as Women at War. The Killing Code. This is by Ellie Marney. Anatomy, A Love Story is by Dana Schwartz, and it counts as both women in science because it's about a girl who becomes a surgeon, but it's also YA. And then I also have A Northern Light by Jennifer Donnelly because I gotta fit in some Jennifer Donnelly. The next prompt is to read a book about a woman author. So for that, I have My Imaginary Mary. This is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows, and this book is about Mary Shelley. I have The Christie Affair. This is by Nina de Gramont, and this is about Agatha Christie. I have Maud by Melanie J. Fishbane, and this is about Lucy Maud Montgomery's life. And I have World of Ink and Shadows by Lena Coakley, and this is about the Bronte sisters. The next prompt is to read a book that is set in medieval period. So for medieval women, I have Mistress of the Art of Death by Ariana Franklin. And this is, I think, a murder mystery set in medieval England. I have Hild by Nicola Griffith. This would also count as LGBTQIA+ rep. This is set in 7th century Britain. And then I have The Lost Queen by Signa Pike. And this, I think, is Scotland. Yeah, I think this is medieval Scotland. Okay, the next prompt is to read a book written by a woman using a male pen name. And let me tell you, I could find nothing on my shelves. And I did some research too, and everything was coming up with like, oh, you know, like Middlemarch and all those things. And, you know, the Bronte sisters use pen names, and I just like, that's not what I'm looking for. So if you find something that is historical fiction or history, and it is written by a woman using a male pen name, please let me know down below, because I am frustrated that I created an impossible prompt. Like, I hope that it's not actually impossible. The next prompt, though, I do have recommendations for, because that is books about witches. And I do have quite a few. I have Hour of the Witch by Chris Bohalian, The Lady of the Rivers, and this is by Philippa Gregory. I have The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. And I have Circe by Madeline Miller. The next prompt is to read a book about female friendship, and for that I have Not Our Kind, and this is by Kitty Zeldis. I have The Degenerates. This is by J. Albert Mann, and this would also count as LGBTQIA+ rep. I have One for All. This is by Lily Lainoff, and I have The Family, and this is by Naomi Krapitsky. Okay, the next prompt is to read a generational saga, and I found two things on my shelves. I have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, and I have Wild Swans, and this is by Jung Chang. These are both about family histories spanning back generations. Next up is to read a historical fantasy. For that, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Then I have Atomic Anna by Rachel Barenbaum. This is like time travel, time loopy weirdness. My Lady Jane. This is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. And also My Imaginary Mary. Both of those are fantasy because they add a lot of weird stuff to it. Like, this is shape-shifting. So there's a lot of weird things happening in their stories. Then I also have Circe by Madeline Miller and The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. These are both technically historical fantasy because they have to do with mythology. Next is to read a book with Indigenous representation, and again, I am so frustrated with my bookshelves right now. I am missing one of the books I wanted to recommend. I don't know what happened to it. It's just not here. I do have The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. This is set in the 80s, so that counts as historical fiction. And this one's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm counting it because it's set in like the early 2000s, I think, or like 2010s. It's a time period that is come and gone, so it counts as historical for me, and that is The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. So both of these count for Indigenous representation, but it's hard to find historical books about Indigenous women that are written by Indigenous women or Indigenous people at all. So like it's hard, but I do have a couple recommendations there. And the last prompt I'm going to talk about right now is pink on the cover. I've already shown you so many books that have pink on the cover. We have My Lady Jane, Not Our Kind by Kitty Zeldis, Nothing Sung, Nothing Spoken by Nita Tyndall has pink on the cover. I have Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys, The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meisner, What Every Girl Should Know by J. Albert Mann, Alex and Eliza by Melissa de la Cruz, and Lovely War by Julie Berry. All have pink on the cover. So, like, you can see that a lot of the books I've talked about today count for multiple prompts, so you can definitely stack and like read one book that counts for like 3 or 4 prompts. And finally, the last book I'm going to talk about is our group read, and that is The German Wife. This is by Kelly Rimmer. And again, this book counts for multiple prompts. It's one of the reasons I chose it as our group book. So The German Wife counts as a woman on the cover, and it also counts as women at war because it's set during World War II for part of the story. It goes back and forth between 2 time periods. It's also multiple POVs that are all women, and it's about wives and mothers. So you can count this book for 5 prompts. So you're welcome. I'm just doing my best to make this as easy for you guys as possible to like read whatever you want within all of these different prompts. So I don't know yet what my TBR is going to look like, but now that I have like pulled everything down from my shelves, I'm definitely going to go through and see what I want to do here, what bingo I want to do on the board. I don't know yet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I've inspired you to read some historical fiction, to join in during March Through History and read some great historical fiction and history books that are about women. Make sure in the comments below you leave any other recommendations for books for different prompts that we've talked about today. Like if you know of a book that you're definitely going to read for one of the prompts, leave it in the comments. I want to like build more recommendations into this video so this can be a great resource for anyone who's doing March Through History this year. So if you can just leave all your recommendations for different prompts down in the comments, that would be great. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.